Welcome to Frequently Speaking. This is your host, Maxwellness. Now, here on this podcast, we're going to start to break down words that we speak outwardly and how their vibrations create what we frequently see. Now, in today's episode, we're going to delve into sense reception. Welcome in to another episode of Frequently Speaking. So today, we're going to share a deep piece into sense reception. And this is a piggyback and a continuance of the previous episode, which was ebb and flow, which when we went into, we really broke down the balancing between the body, the brain, the breath, and how we can slow down that momentum of balance. Now, within this episode, we're going to dive into aspects of emotional sensitivity and also how that increases our energetic receptivity. And what I mean by this is like how we receive in these ways of our deeper senses, not just on, our five normal senses of this Newtonian planet, but deeper ways in which we can actually attain relaxation through activation. Now, our central nervous system works in two different ways. Either it's going up or it's coming down. But when we think about our senses, and not just the ones in the physical world, but when we look into those deeper senses of how we receive things clairvoyantly, how we receive things energetically, we tap into like these etheric and deeper, more profound senses and these deeper bodies. We want to really bring into a concept of how does that translate into the mind, and also how does that translate into the body. So when you think of your senses, what comes to mind? Now, when you think of reception, what do you think of? So this is what we will come to expand in how we feel about these two and how their relationship can be seen for their limitless potential. Seeing how these aspects of us are embodied can help to bring more unity into our state of being just by shifting what we are frequently speaking. So now what we're really looking at here is the sense of reception. Now our senses, they come into, our periphery nerves, they come in through our eyes, they come in through auditory, they come in through many different senses. But even when we think about temperature and our skin, what causes our body to be a little bit more reactive. This is the sense of actual receptivity, and we're interacting with the energy that's around us. Just the same way as when you walk into a room, you kind of know like what the vibe is. You start to tap into these deeper levels of how you're receiving people, how you're receiving the environment, the room, the gym, whatever it may be. But on a deeper level, we have this other sense that is emotional sensitivity. And when this emotion begins to be a little bit more active, then those emotional senses can produce what we call today like HSP, like highly sensitive people, or empaths, or people that just have this overreactivity of those senses on an emotional standpoint. So we're going to look into these different concepts of how we can actually practically tune into that level of emotional sensitivity and balance it out with our energetic receptivity. So let me ask you a question. Can you feel your feet in your shoes right now? Can you feel your shirt on your body? What about smelling the soap that you used this morning in the shower? Even if you did shower today, not too sure. So right now, this is an activation of your senses, touch and smell. Now, how did you receive those scents and textures? Were you just aware of them, or were you actually receiving information from the activation of those senses? There's a clear distinction between becoming actively aware of your feet in your shoes than actually receiving the sense information, the sensation. These are really through your senses, not necessarily the feeling, but you are bringing this awareness to your feet, and that awareness is bringing your feet to a realization that they're in your shoe. Now, when opening receptivity and activating the sense of feel into your feet, you begin to receive information about how the shoe felt or even how your feet felt. This is the activation of receiving. Hope you're following me on this. So now we look at this concept of just our feet in our shoes or the sense of our soap that's on our body. As we're bringing that in, this is an action of receptivity. This is an activation of receptivity. Are we bringing in, what level are we bringing in the information? What level are we receiving the information? So yeah, our foot can be in our shoe, but are we receiving how tight it is? Are we receiving the weight of our foot? And this is when we start to tap into the deeper senses of awareness and the sensitivities of what our feeling or touch sense is. And as we develop these deeper levels of awareness into our senses, we start to develop a deeper sense and a more fine-tuned sense of this level of receptivity. And we can do the same thing with emotion. Now, think about this for a second. When you activate the feeling, then the information you receive is more detailed. You create from this detailed sense that you have from the feeling, and you start to think things like, my feet are hot, they're comfortable, that bunion is a bit tender, and I need to buy a new pair of shoes. So what I'm saying here is that depending on how we activate our senses determines the emotional connection that we have tied to our senses, deepening our intuitive senses and bringing us closer to embodying these sensations. Because the opposite would be disembodying them, right? So as we start to bridge that information and the sensation that's outside of us, and then we start to determine or discern for ourselves what this emotional connection is that we tie to the two, this begins to deepen our senses. So with a person that is a little bit more disassociated or disembodied from these different senses of feeling, whether that be within physical contact with a partner, whether that be within social environments, whether that be, in the gym, whatever that environment looks like, there's still an emotional connection that's happening with this level of sensation, which is the information that's coming through the senses. So when we're looking to create a little bit more sensitivity and a little bit more texture to these different senses that we have, we can look at the somatics behind it and how we actually speak within our body and what that information is really receiving in. So when does this really come up though? Like, how can we exercise this? I mean, you may be thinking, how important is all of this? But let's 86 all of that and just really get into the depths of it. So let's think about this for a second. What we know about the brain is that it speaks the language of information. And if you listen to ebbs and flow before, this is what we speak about our central nervous system and how it speaks the language of emotion and how that emotion can be pushed and pulled and create those ebbs and flows within our body to create that balance between our body and our brain. So last time I checked, the brain is a part of the biological body. Yeah? The common bridge between the two are chemicals and electricity. So these get excited and de-excited by the interactions that we have from the outside world. Shouldn't this conversation be stimulated in order to keep the relationship strong then? I mean, if you're someone who has complete embodiment of all your emotions and are completely with each sensation, then you understand and feel everything I'm saying, right? But if you're feeling a little confused, then that's okay. Like, this is where we can grow and we can deepen these levels of sensitivity. Because probably not, this expansion of perception can bring in some light as to how we can build that relationship and deepen those sensitivities, as well as strengthen it with the practices I'll share at the end of this. So let's understand it a bit from both sides though. Our senses are expressed both inwardly and outwardly. So are the ways that we receive. We receive in, and we also receive from the outside world. So when we sense something like someone in a bad mood, It's most likely because we picked up something in their tone, facial expression, or their energy. Either way, it's information from an outside sense that we've extended. So now imagine if you could stretch that as far as you'd like. This is what we talk about in somatics, about expanding an emotion, expanding the energy, and allowing it to not just sit in one part of your body. Say, if we're looking at it from an Eastern practice, let's take anger, for example. That energy and that emotion sits in the liver primarily. That doesn't necessarily mean that one component of your body is just subject to that energy. So what we can do is start to displace that and expand the energy and expand the emotion to deepen the level. And this is true and full embodiment of an emotion. So receiving from a distance takes practice, especially if you want to remain preserved within your own field of safety. To receive this information, though, without a penetration is even more difficult, but that's the key when looking to strengthen these senses. We need to look at where those difficult parts are and where those penetrations may be coming in and where we can manage them. So I developed this 3-step process that I like to do to check in. And the first one is get into the body. The second is gather the mind. And the third is grasp onto the spirit. So I want to dive into these a little bit deeper because the getting, the gathering, and the grasping are really just tying the senses of the body, the mind, and the spirit and bringing it into a holistic perspective. So getting into the body is about opening the body's senses and how it feels about the sensation and how your body receives it. Exhale. Is it tense, judgmental, restraint, or are you drawn to it? Then what I like to do is I like to contract that into my mind. The inhale. What's my mind saying about the interpretation of these sensations? Are they familiar, foreign, tied to something in the past, or a narrative? Then I take that a little step further, and lastly, I like to grasp onto my spirit by connecting what my intuition is saying behind the evaluation of what my mind has reasoned. Exhale. So in these 3 steps, I really like to tie into just the breath, and I allow the intelligence into the body, into the mind, and into the spirit to really just follow this sense of breath. And the breath is really connecting to the body in a more somatic context, and it's giving you that deeper sensation and that felt feeling. But it also ties in the mind with these concepts of what is actually in that process, and also holding on to that spirit and maintaining that intuition that's a message or a signal that's coming from a deeper, more sensitive and subtle aspect of your body. And tying this to the breath can help to get into the body, gather the mind, and grasp onto that spirit. So if you're not too familiar with breath or spirit or having this holistic perspective, this may seem a little bit esoteric, but it's a simple format of breath that I use to gather and evaluate information. In this process, I find that self, present in the moment, is able to feel the sensation through, fully receiving it inward and being with it as it is outward, without any judgments, without any placements, without any problem solving. You're just merely receiving this information and gathering it to evaluate. This has helped to shift my perspective, my perception of how my body sees and receives things after a long time. So while also remaining autonomous in my non-involvement and attachment to the information. So I'll start to describe on how we can apply this into a practice a little bit later. But first, I want to just dive into a little bit more about preservation and how we can look into strengthening these concepts. So we're pretty smart humans, right? Like most of the time. We also have these deeply ingrained thoughts, feelings, and conditions as to what we can receive and sense. But most of the time, that keeps us finite, limited. I want to create the space for you to expand yourself, mentally as well as physically, by challenging your beliefs and applying this perspective. Even if you are an empath or a highly sensitive person and you find yourself extremely sensitive to people's energies or emotions, or maybe even drained by them, or even restricting when you want to be a little bit more socially involved and just simply can't. This is because that sense of preservation hasn't yet been strengthened enough to prevent penetration. So how you may be receiving energies may be pure and direct without a strong filtration system. So this keeps us limited and confined within the powerfully disempowering label of an empath, introvert, extrovert, highly sensitive person, whatever it may be. And it's about the ways that we have received these words before. They're masking to the true potentiality that lies latent within them, is what we will begin to tap into with this exercise. Because bringing in these different informations and having this level of sensitivity is a true power, and it shouldn't be seen or received or embodied as a disempowering thing. But the belief is this limitlessness is within the ability to sense it further than you can actually simply just touch. So allowing these energies, allowing these sensations, allowing these environments to come in contact with you, and then allow and have that created, strengthened, empowered ability to expand them through your body can help deepen this level of sense receptivity. So, to go a little bit further in this concept may be new, right? But to look at the senses and receptivity in this internal and external, this is a conversation that's going on all day, whether you notice it or not. So I want you to have access to that frequency and to be able to resonate with it on demand, to allow for balance between your brain and body. This is kind of that slowing down, and just a reference back to the last piece that I did of ebbs and flows, and really controlling those ebbs and flows within us, and guiding that dance of that emotional receptivity and that emotional sensitivity that is within inside of us. The shift that is key, though, is within the practice of this perception. So seeing, sensing, and receiving in these ways help to strengthen the bond between our brain's problem-solving skills and our body's energetic receiving skills. So honing these skills and really fine-tuning them can bridge the two by tapping into the harmonizing of that chemical and electrical response within you. And this is going to start to allow for relaxation and increased activity of the sense reception, giving us more power to preserve our space, our energy, and our sense ability. You feel me? So here's the practice. Get, gather, and grasp. First, bringing some texture to them, I want you to visualize this action as a bubble around you. Take a few deep breaths and really bring this image into your mind, surrounding yourself with each inhale and with each exhale. Begin to visualize this bubble around you. Next, create a layer for your body, being the closest to you. After that, create a layer for your mind, which is about 3 feet away from you. Then a layer for your spirit, about 6 feet away from you. If you are more of an empath or physically sensitive person, reverse the layers, putting the body furthest away into that outermost layer. Next, in this layered bubble, begin to visualize a situation happening that stirs up an emotion that makes you feel dysregulated. It can be a person, a place, or a mayonnaise and peanut butter sandwich. Ugh. But next, we're going to visualize yourself exhaling air out of your body, into that first layer and expanding it like a screen out in front of you to see your reactions. Truly see it. Feel the emotions and observe them for what they are, separate from you. As you begin to allow the visualization in your mind, meaning thinking about it, breathe in and visualize the second layer, contracting inwards and bringing them all closer, but still not into you. The thoughts about these reactions and these responses are just merely coming a little bit closer. And we want to observe where they're coming from and acknowledge their presence. Next, as you exhale, visualize the last layer of your bubble expanding and filling with what it is you are truly seeing and connecting with as you look past the other layered emotions and see what this situation is truly to you and to your spirit. So as you're expanding that emotion out towards you, you're lifting those layers and lifting those judgments, just simply observing. Once you're able to see this, you can write it down to make it a little bit more tangible, or stay with the image and connect it to the feeling you have and main resistance towards that and building that receptivity to how you sense it on these more subtle levels, which is ultimately your intuition. Take this practice into your day if you're looking to develop a deeper and more profound sense reception. And also, schedule a call with me if you'd like to create a consistent practice to build accountability, or ask about access to the downloadable at-home LAM course. And this is where we go into a little bit deeper of how to really fine-tune and practically bring these energetic subtleties that are around us at all times to help build, strengthen, and empower our sense reception. If you like this episode and would like to explore more perspectives like this with me as we get a bit more intimate and intricate look into our internal vibrations, be sure to tune in to next week's episode and subscribe for more. Until then, keep frequently speaking what you frequently see.